Russia is not winning on the battlefield and is in fact losing the war in Ukraine, U.S. presidential envoy Keith Kellogg said at the U.S. conference in Kyiv. He stressed that if Vladimir Putin were really succeeding, Russian forces would already be in Kyiv, across the Dnipro, and in Odessa with a new government installed. None of this has happened, which shows that Moscow is failing on its goals. Kellogg noted that he and America's top military advisors have given the assessment to President Trump: Russia is not winning this war. Kellogg also stressed that without China's support, Russia's war against Ukraine would not have lasted this long.
Russia has become dependent on China and now plays the role of a junior partner. While Beijing holds the strategic advantage in both military and economic terms, without China's support, the Russian government would not be able to sustain its war against Ukraine for long. If Beijing were to withdraw its backing, the situation on the battlefield could change very quickly.
Ukrainian drones launched an overnight strike on one of Russia's largest oil refineries in the city of Kirishi, Leningrad region. Russian officials reported that drone debris has caused a fire at the refinery. According to Ukraine's general staff, explosions and a fire were recorded at the Kirishi oil refinery, with the scale of the damage still being assessed. The Kirishi oil refinery is among the largest in Russia, with an annual processing capacity of about 21 million tons of crude oil. It produces roughly 80 types of petroleum products, including gasoline, diesel, and aviation fuel. Ukrainian officials stressed that the refinery also plays a role in supplying Russia's armed forces.
The most effective sanctions, the ones that work the fastest, are the sanctions on Russia's oil refineries, its terminals, oil depots. We have significantly restricted Russia's oil industry, and this significantly restricts the war. Russia's war is essentially a function of oil, of gas, of all its other energy resources. I thank the special forces of the Security Service of Ukraine, who did a great job in Primorsk recently, hitting Russia's largest oil terminal on the Baltic Sea. There is substantial damage. Everything has been verified, and this is tangible for the enemy.
Russia is a threat to the whole world, says Estonian Prime Minister, and Europe is only at the beginning of rebuilding its defenses, Kristen Michal has said. He urged NATO allies in Europe to start joint weapons purchases and to use nearly 200 billion euros in frozen Russian assets to help fund Ukraine's recovery. Like Poland and its Baltic neighbors, Lithuania and Latvia, Estonia shares a border with Russia and views the alliance's ability to deter Moscow as a matter of survival, according to The Times. All four border countries plan to raise defense spending to more than 5% of GDP within 2 years. And they are also rebuilding fortifications along their frontiers with Russia and Belarus, including a drone wall with tens of thousands of sensors linked by artificial intelligence to anti-drone systems, the report said. Most Germans fear a Russian attack on a NATO country. A recent poll said that concerns in Germany have risen sharply after Russian drones violated Polish airspace. 62% of Germans see a Russian attack on NATO members as a real risk. Only 28% disagreed. The poll also showed strong support for tougher measures against Moscow. Nearly half of respondents back an immediate halt to Russian oil and gas supplies to the EU. Half of those surveyed said that frozen Russian assets in the EU should be used to support Ukraine. Recent drone incidents have fueled wider unease in Europe. On September 10, Russian drones crossed into Polish airspace, prompting a sharp response from more than 40 states at the UN General Assembly. 3 days later, Romania reported a similar incident. Despite Europe's fear of a possible escalation, analysts mock Russia's war games. Russia's latest military drills, Zapad 2025, were supposed to impress. Instead, they sparked ridicule, even among Russian military bloggers and analysts. Commentators say the exercises looked less like preparation for modern warfare and more like a stage show for bored generals with binoculars. One popular Telegram channel put it bluntly: this isn't training, it's just another circus act for the generals sitting on their podiums. Critics noted that the drills repeated the same flawed tactics Russia already tried and failed in Ukraine. The attempt to seize Hostomel airport near Kyiv in 2022 followed the very same playbook. Drop in a paratroopers, hold the position, wait for reinforcements. Ukraine's artillery, airstrikes and ground resistance quickly crushed that plan. Since then, Russian aircraft avoid flying anywhere within 40 kilometers of Ukraine air defenses. And yet, the grand spectacle of Zapad 2025 pretended as if the skies were empty and the paratroopers unstoppable. Analysts suggest that the Russian Ministry of Defense is more interested in putting on a show than in learning the brutal lessons of the battlefield. US President Donald Trump has for the first time described Russia as the aggressor in the war against Ukraine, marking a shift in his stance toward Moscow. This week, 8,000 soldiers were killed on both sides, slightly more from Russia, but when you're the aggressor, you lose more, Trump told to reporters. Until recently, Donald Trump had refused to condemn the Kremlin, dismissing UN and G7 statements that labeled Russia the aggressor. In April, he even blamed Ukraine, saying it had no right to start a war against a much stronger opponent. But over the summer, his position shifted, with Washington putting greater pressure on Putin and seeking to promote direct peace talks between him and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Speaking to journalists before boarding Air Force One, Trump said that the war had proven harder to end than expected, and he might have to intervene directly. What he said is, citing, "The hatred between Zelensky and Putin is unimaginable. They hate each other so much they can hardly breathe. So I will have to step in. We'll solve it one way or another," he said. Asked about the timing, Trump said only that talks would happen relatively soon. Prince Harry, moved by his visit to Kyiv Memorial, honors fallen Ukrainian soldiers. The Duke of Sussex said that it was one of the saddest things he had ever seen, but also one of the most beautiful. When Harry arrived to lay a wreath, a crowd quickly gathered around him. He then chose to walk deeper into the memorial to find a place where he could be alone. He also added that the war could and should have been avoided. That's all for now. For more content, please subscribe.